I've been sailing boats on the west coast of Florida and all over the world for the last 25 years. I've been racing sailboats, and this boat is a unique boat in that it's shallow draft, and it has a lot of the performance characteristics that some of the race boats have. It will be a good boat for practicality, going in shallow draft waters, and then when we go offshore and we sail, it's going to have a lot of the performance characteristics of some of the modern race boats. I've been working with boats all of my life, and this was a project that caught my imagination. It brings together the modern racing boat elements and the classic traditional elements of sailing, and I think that a lot of modern designers have overlooked some of the traditional classic sailboat elements. You can tell this by seeing all of the boats that draw over 7-8 feet of water that are 50 feet long. Those boats have no business on the west coast of Florida. There's not much place that they can sail, and there's certainly not very many anchorages for them. In the turn of the century, there were a lot of coastal cruising sailboats that were drawing 3-4 feet of water that on a regular basis went in and out of these passes here, and they had much the same problem that people have today. Things haven't changed on the west coast of Florida. The intercoastal waterway at best has 8-9 feet of water. In some places it has less, even in the channel that is supposed to be the deepest water in the area. So this boat is a good boat for traveling the west coast of Florida. It would have applications all over the world, and again, it's a shallow draft applications for this boat. The less a boat draws, the better. This boat draws 3 feet for a 54-foot boat. It's a classic design. It was designed by Clark Mills. He's the designer of the Optimus Pram and many Sharpies and shoal draft cruising boats. And we've taken his original design and applied new design techniques with airfoil keels and high-tech materials such as carbon fiber and Kevlar that we use in the construction of the boat. So we've taken a classic boat design and made it, updated it to the modern engineering principles.
When I was a little kid, and I was over at the beach or out on that pier, there's no wooden pier over there, or if I was swimming, every now and then you'd see a boat coming down just offshore. And I knew what a couple of them were. Knew the boats and knew the fellas and knew them. But a lot of them were just in transit type commercials, little freight boats. They were still trying to make a living with some sails. And some of them were real homely boats, and some of them were really pretty little schooners, and that just, I couldn't get my eyes off of them. I just sat there and watched them till they were out of sight. So that's what I was hoping to achieve, was a modern boat that had that appeal to it, you see, of that era.
This is the type of boat that actually was the cargo carrying boat that helped settle the coast of Florida. Today, the most important consideration, I think, is hurricanes, and the vulnerability of boats that are left out at anchor or tied up at public marinas. To have your boat in a protected canal or a bayou and tied up to a dock is about the best hurricane protection you can get. So I would think anyone who's considering a large boat, a 54-foot boat, has to consider the draft, and a 3-foot draft for a boat that's 54 feet long is about as shallow as you're going to get. And by using the basic design and adding some modern sailing characteristics, that we've made a boat that will be shallow draft and also perform well.
Shallow draft because we're all Florida folks and we want to go up and down the Gulf and go in here and go in there. And somebody with 11-foot of draft and a little 40-footer, they're not going in anywhere much except Boca Grande and Tampa and a couple places over on the East Coast. So that's not a very good boat for pure fun unless you just want to be seasick all your life. Well, you know, I've always been a small boat sailor, and I sail right down the beach and down inside the bays and what you call sort of a gunk hole. And if the water gets deeper, then you can touch bottom with a 3-foot boat hook. Man, I'm off soundings. But I wouldn't know what to do with one of these boats that draws all that water with that big, deep fin keel on it. I would be aground and stuck permanent, no time at all. So that was the idea, to have a real handy boat that we had enough room in it that a family could live aboard for long spells and still able enough boat to slip over in the islands, the Bahamas and around, and get some real use out of it in Florida. Go in all these nice little places, you know, there's just all kind of places have fairly shallow harbors, and if you draw 5 or 6 or 7 feet, it's doubtful if you're going in there. Listen, it's flood tide. And then you might have to stay a while. So that was my thinking on it.
I've brought in 2 designers that have had great sailing design success. One is Håkan Södergren. He's from Sweden. He's designed over 200 boats. He has some boats of his design that one design they've built over 100 boats that are 50 feet long. So he has a lot of experience with these boats. He brought that experience to his design work on the Land's End 54. The other designer is Glenn Henderson, and he's a race boat designer, famous on the west coast of Florida and all over the world. He brought some interesting applications of modern materials to the project. So with Clark's original design and Håkan Sodergren and Glenn Henderson helping with some of the design aspects, we've done a good synthesis of a classic, traditional design sailboat with modern materials and modern design philosophies.
My experience from racing, I have raced quite a lot in my life, is that the best boat to be out there is a racing boat without any combings or anything. It's easy to move in the boat and easy to handle the boat and so forth, and from that point of view this boat is very, very similar. I mean, this is a very, very safe boat. What I actually did on the Lance M54 was to make the foils and all that things to make the performance better, and then I designed the rig, deck and interior. But the deck and the interior is very, very simple. The deck is actually very special because there's no combings around the cockpit, and that is something that is quite unusual in boats like that. And I think that it makes the boat very, very nice to be out with, because you have a lot of deck area and so forth, and it's a very, very nice cockpit actually.
We've completed the mold for the Land's End 54. Now we can build hulls inside of the mold out of modern fiberglass materials using modern resins, and these boats can be produced as many as one a month. And they are exact replicas being built inside of a fiberglass mold. They will be reproduced exactly. I hope to find a large manufacturer that can produce a quantity of these. Until we find a large manufacturer, I'm going to be producing one boat at a time out of the mold. The hull mold is the only fixed factor in the construction of the boat. The interior layout, the deck, the sail plan, all of that is up to each individual owner. This boat is a popular design that's been used all over the United States. It's a boat that has a rich history and of the coastal trading boats about the turn of the century, and by making a mold it makes it possible to reproduce this classic design out of modern fiberglass materials.
Shallow draft is absolute perfect for an area like Florida, Caribbean and so forth, where you have a lot of shallow draft water, so you need a boat to come in there. And the Lance M54 is a very old-fashioned design, and it looks pretty good.
It's a large boat. It's a 54-foot boat. It is 14 feet wide, and it draws 3 feet of water. What that does is allow you to have a large boat that can be brought in shallow draft areas. Obviously, if you have a home on the water, this gives you a lot more possibilities of places to anchor the boat. Hurricane anchorage is an important consideration when you see the damage that can be done in a hurricane. So a boat of this size that can be brought up in a small canal and tied up to someone's dock next to their home is a timely boat.
We know that sometimes you actually need to come in protected water, and this boat is a very, very good boat from that point of view. It's easy to come in everywhere. The draft is almost nothing. If you compare it with a boat of this size, a modern boat of this size. So I think the boat have a lot of features that makes it safe and nice, and it's actually a really, really good boat for traveling around in these kind of areas.
What we've done with the Land's End 54 is we've taken a classic coastal cruising sailboat design that could have plied the waters in 1900, and we've designed modern applications to putting like a modern foil for a daggerboard section on the boat, using modern materials in the construction of the boat. All of these things make for a better boat. There was nothing wrong with the boats that were built around 1900. There's been a lot of improvements on the materials that are used today. The fiberglass materials are improving all the time. The resins are improving all the time, so using a mold for the construction of this boat allows us to use the modern fiberglass materials and resins. And what we're actually doing is producing a boat that could have been designed and used around 1900. These boats were very practical. They were for shoal draft applications, and a lot of that practicality would be useful today to modern sailors.